All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our weekly Power Lounge. This is your place to hear authentic conversations from those who have power to share. My name is Amy Vaughan, and I am the owner. Nope, we're going to start again. We're going to start again. This is the fun of being like behind the scenes of a podcast. Helps if we push record to play. And all of our YouTube viewers always get the extra behind the scenes fun too. So let's do that again. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad it's Friday, you guys. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our weekly Power Lounge. This is your place to hear authentic conversations from those who have power to share. My name is Amy Vaughan, and I am the owner and Chief Empowerment Officer of Together Digital, a diverse and collaborative community of women who choose to share their knowledge, power, and connections. Learn more about us and join the movement at www.togetherindigital.com. Today, we are going to dive into the essence of career happiness and the art of crafting and fulfilling a fulfilling professional journey. Asia, I'm just going to start again. Asia is our amazing podcast editor, by the way. All right, starting again. We're going to get through this, I swear to you, and get to Julie, and it'll be smooth sailing. Today, we're going to dive into the essence of career happiness and the art of crafting a fulfilling professional journey. Julie Bauke, a seasoned expert with over 25 years of experience working with executives, professional athletes, and individuals across various industries, is going to be our guide. Julie is a sought-after national expert, workshop facilitator, and keynote speaker. Julie has been featured by more than 100 prominent media outlets, including CNBC, Money Magazine, and weekly TV segments with the Scripps News Network. She is a regular contributor to top radio stations in New York, Chicago, Dallas, San Francisco, San Diego, and Miami. Julie, we're so excited to have you here with us today. Thank you for joining us.
Well, I'm happy to be here talking about my absolute favorite topic, which is your career happiness.
Absolutely. Now, some of you might find Julie familiar. She was so gracious as to come and lead a workshop on this exact topic with some of our members. So, members, be sure to check out our library of content, which is rather robust. But we will be sure to share that link out to our members' Slack as well. Be sure to check that out if you really want to kind of get into the nitty-gritty and more hands-on. But I also just wanted to bring this conversation to the larger audience and to the greater world because Julie, as you know, I own and operate Together Digital. It's a network for women who are professionals. And we were just talking about this before we hopped on. We are perfectionists, we're moms, we're caretakers. We are really hard workers. Often our happiness gets put to the back burner, and we don't necessarily see career and happiness as two coexisting things. So I really do love your the rally cry that you've created for your business and how you're helping others create career happiness. So I'm curious for our listeners to get a little bit more understanding of who you are and where you came from and how this came to be. How did career happiness become the rallying cry for you personally and for your
Yeah,
business?
yeah. My first 16 years of my career, I was in human resources, and I had so many people coming to see me to complain about the color of the walls,
Mm,
the brand of the tater tots, whatever. It was just like, and it just would occur to me, these are just miserably unhappy people who don't want to be here, but they don't know what to do about it. And I just became just fascinated by the concept of settling for a job or a place of employment, a role that is making you miserably unhappy. And so when I left HR because I couldn't stand it anymore in the late 90s and went on this journey of becoming a career development and career management expert, for 9 years, I worked with companies, I worked with people who'd just been let go. So I worked in outplacement with people who'd been let go. And what was fascinating to me was how many of them would say to me at some point, they probably did me a favor. I was miserable. And so I'm like, why did you stay if you were miserable? And it's fear. It's not knowing what to do next. It's feeling like once you commit to a company or a job, you have to stick with it. It was family pressures. There was so many
mm,
things that kept people stuck
mhm.
that when I went out on my own in 2007, I said, this is going to be all about career happiness at every stage of your career life cycle. And so it's just, I always say I'm wildly career happy And so I know what a positive impact that has on
Yeah.
all sectors of my life.
Hmm.
And so I want it for others.
I love it. I love it. Nothing like hearing and seeing a problem over and over again and then really just leaning into finding a way to help others overcome it. And we're going to kind of get to some of those specifics and ways in which you've helped to support others and help them encourage them to find their career happiness because so much is based on societal pressures, norms, things like that. Things that we think might
Yeah.
make us happy that don't end up making us happy at
Yeah.
all. But so let's dig into that a little bit. Let's just define what career happiness is. What does that even mean
Okay.
to you,
It's a,
Julie?
yeah,
And
it's
how do you start to help individuals identify career happiness in their professional lives?
so if you think about like if you go to your doctor and you say, I don't feel good, what the first thing they're going to say is, where does it hurt? And so we take that same approach. So
Mm,
career happiness is a four-legged stool, and each of those legs has to be solid or the whole thing comes tumbling down. Four pieces, four things have to exist for you to be career happy. You have to be good at what you do,
mhm,
at least good, hopefully great. You have to like what you do. If you're lucky, you love it. So being good at something and liking it is a start. The third leg is you have to be able to get paid for it.
mhm.
I mean, in other words, there has to be demand in the market for it.
Right.
If you can't get paid for it, it's just a hobby. That's
Hmm.
okay, but you can't make a career out of a hobby if you need salary. So not only does it have to be in demand in the market, but it has to pay some what you need to live. So you have to be realistic there. And the fourth leg of the stool, frankly, is the biggest one. And it is the reason why most people say they didn't like a particular job. And that is you have to be working in a place in a way you can be successful,
Hmm.
which is a lot of words to say you have to be in the right culture. So when I ask people, when I say, okay, here are the four legs of the career happiness stool, think about the worst job you've ever had. What was it? What leg of that stool was the weakest? What was the one that caused the whole thing to tumble down? Two-thirds to three-quarters of people, it's that fourth stool. It's either a bad leader,
Yeah.
bad culture, bad environment. And so a lot of times we're good at what we do and we like it and we get paid well. But if you're not doing it in the right place, with the
Hmm.
right people, in the right situation in which you can be successful, you will be career unhappy. So the first thing we do with people is help them figure out what's not working. What's the wobbly leg of the stool? And before until you are can recognize that and really articulate what's not working or where the pain is, you can't even begin to think about solving it. And so there's this diagnosis of your situation
Hmm.
that has to happen versus just going out and willy-nilly trying 100 things and hoping you land something. So those are the four pieces of career happiness. And the trick of this is
Hmm.
you can be career happy on Friday,
Yeah.
and on Monday you get a new
So
boss,
true.
the responsibilities on your desk change, the whole thing comes tumbling down. And your definition of career happiness will change as you change and your life changes. So it's
Absolutely.
not a destination, it's a tool that you use to manage your career.
I love it. That's such a nice framework. And I think it really helps to simplify what sometimes feels very big and convoluted and complex. Before we move on to the next question, I'm going to pause just for a moment. Julie, for some reason, your audio got really quiet. Maybe we switch away from your earbuds just to your computer audio. Possibly,
Okay.
I just want to make sure that we're getting clear audio on you because when we checked earlier, it was fine. And I was just checking with
Yeah, no.
Kaylee. She's like, yeah, I
Okay,
got
hold on.
quiet too. I don't know if our live listeners are having trouble listening. I was like, maybe it's just my headphones, but
Is this any better?
yes. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Dell
Weird.
was
Okay.
agreeing. Yeah, it was a bit quiet. That's better.
Okay.
Okay,
Sorry
cool.
about that. Okay.
No.
So career happiness, four legs of a stool. Identify the wobbly leg, then you know where to dive in and start what to fix. You don't want to be fixing the wrong problem. What I see is that people will be like, oh, they're unhappy and they think, well, maybe I just need a different job. Well, you can't. It's like if you're fixing your car, you don't want to change out the wrong parts.
Right.
Really have to be really open and honest with yourself about what's not working. Then you
Hmm.
have to commit to actually taking action to change it.
I love it. I love it. That sounds like an excellent practice to go through. And by the way, for our live listeners, because I feel I can't see all of you because you don't have your cameras on, but I feel people leaning in. I'm like, ooh, yes, I need to do this work. I need to figure this out. So we will definitely share within the chat ways in which you can connect with Julie. Oh, of course, Kaylee's already gotten to it. Thanks, Kaylee. And we'll include that in the show notes as well. All right, Julie, then for the next question. You've talked a bit in the past through the workshops and through some of the writing that I've read of yours. You've talked about unraveling the secrets to lasting career happiness and success. What are some practical steps that you would recommend for us to help achieve that sort of sense of long-lasting career happiness? Because like you said, it evolves. Things change over time, our priorities, our values, our situations.
Yeah, things change in our lives, but also things change in the world around us.
Hmm.
Things change in what work looks like, what the job market expects. I mean, look at the huge difference for those of you over a certain age, like I am. Wow, things are so different than they used to be. It is up to you to bend, flex, and adjust to what is versus standing on your lawn, shaking your fist at the world and saying, well, this isn't the way I do it. This isn't the way it used to be. I like the old way.
Yep.
So there's two things. There's self-awareness, and then
Hmm.
there's market and world awareness. And one of my favorite sayings is it's called your career for a reason. You
Yeah.
have to be the one that makes those moves. So what we're seeing now is there used to be the model used to be your company will train you whatever
Mhm.
they need you to do. No, you have to stay employable.
Yeah.
And so a couple things. Staying employable means keeping your skills and your knowledge up to date and
Hmm.
keeping one eye on the market. What's the market looking for? And you also have to operate from the inside out. So if you are, we use a phrase in our company that you want your career to serve your life, not your life to serve your career. So if
Yeah.
you think about I want my career to serve my life,
Uh-huh.
what's going on in my life right now
Yeah.
that might need me um, to tweak what I'm doing at work.
Hmm.
And you have to kind of bend and flex. And we're in a really flexible world right now, even
Yeah.
though there's a lot of frustration and angst with how it's all playing out. But this really has to start from an inside out place. What
Hmm.
do I want? What are my must-haves? What are my like to have, must have, want, kind of like to have, don't want, never again. What do I want more of? And
Hmm.
getting really clear on how to align your work and your life. This has become so critical here in the last several years. If you think about the way it used to be, and it doesn't feel like it was that long ago.
Yeah.
If your manager wanted to call you at home, they had to get out ye old phone book,
Yeah.
white pages, and look you up and
Yeah.
call your home phone and maybe have to talk to your teenager. So they didn't.
Hmm.
There was a line. You went home at a certain time and you were done until the next morning. And so if you were unhappy at work, you could hide it
Hmm.
because you're like, okay, I'm going to walk in the door and I'm going to fake it until tomorrow
Yep.
morning when I'm miserable again. It's gone. It's gone.
Hmm.
If you're in a bad job, that seeps over into whole parts of your life. Are you getting texts? Are you getting Slack messages? Are you getting contacted late at night? And that if you hate your job, then it's like, it's like jarring.
Hmm.
But if you love your job, like I do, you love what you do, and I'm guessing Amy, you do as well,
Absolutely.
then it's not a bother. Everything's seamless. I don't mind
Hmm.
doing stuff on Saturday or Sunday
Hmm.
because I love it.
Yeah.
And that's a risk too. You don't want to become your career to become your whole
Right.
life, but you've got to look at all the pieces of your life
Hmm.
together. We can't compartmentalize anymore. Technology is taking all of that away.
Those days are long gone. I
Yeah.
love that idea of that mindset shift. It's like I think a similar saying is instead of um how's it working for a living or living to work? It's like,
Yeah.
are you working to make ends meet and pay bills, or is this literally your whole life? And I think I'm kind of curious. This is a bit of an off script question. I'm curious as to, as you're speaking, it's taking me back to the fact that like my dad has been with the same company for 45 years. He'll be retiring soon, and that's such an unheard of thing. He started sweeping floors there when he first came into the country, when he was still learning English, and now he has a big job where he travels constantly and um, like I said, has kind of really moved up through the ranks, and that's the way it used to be. And then the idea of career happiness, this is kind of getting to my question. I don't even think it was really a thing, right? You just did it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what do you think it is? Like, what is it about these last few generations of folks that is really enticing us to be persistent about pursuing career happiness? Because I don't think this was even a conversation 10 years
No,
ago.
no. But I think a lot of us saw
Mm,
our parents and older people in our lives
mhm.
be absolutely miserable. We saw them retire at 62, 65, and die 6 to 12 months later.
Yeah, it's true.
Um, and there was also this pension waiting at the end. And so
Yeah.
we started someplace at 22.
Hmm.
Man, if I can just hang on for 40 years, or say when you're 52, just 10 more years,
Uh-huh.
then I'm going to have the golden goose. And we just those generations, and I'm a boomer, so I get it.
Hmm.
It was really it was a slog. But we saw, and our kids saw
Hmm.
the effect on us and other people they knew that wasn't the way to go. That
Hmm.
wasn't so you see it now with and I even as much like I have a 29-year-old son
Hmm.
and his wife is also 29. They both have really great jobs. They're like, yeah, we really want to take a sabbatical. And the boomer in me is like, what? And I'm like, good for
Sabbatical.
you. Right? I mean, what
Uh-huh.
why should you have to work 40 years before you're allowed to have fun? And
Yeah.
so these generations are saying, we're not going to do it that way.
Hmm.
We're going to have fun now. And
Hmm.
what's so cool is these career breaks are becoming more
Hmm.
normal
Yep.
because you don't like I remember back when I was in HR, there was this like, oh, wait a minute. They have a gap in their resume.
Yep.
And the
God
assumption
forbid.
was you were in prison or something. It was like it couldn't be anything but prison. And you were seen as not dedicated,
Hmm.
unfocused, unmotivated, not committed.
Hmm.
And we are slowly changing that. And so this idea, what we're seeing is, and my son actually asked me, what do you think of this when people do this? I said, you can explain it. And what you're going to see is the only people who are going to push back on it
Hmm.
are crusty old boomers. And I always feel like I can say that as I
You
am,
can.
however, not crusty. And people who are just jealous.
Uh-huh.
Most people are going to be like, oh, I want to do that.
Yeah.
So it's just a different time. And
Hmm.
don't wait until because you're not guaranteed that. So what can you do
Right.
take the blinders off? And what's so interesting is when I talk to especially Gen Z,
Hmm.
well, I'm so frustrated. My parents are telling me this, and I'll say, okay, stop listening to your parents. I said, I know I'm in trouble for saying that, but they're giving you boomer advice,
Hmm.
and they're giving you the only advice they know how to give you because
Exactly.
they're
Yeah.
worried about you. And I said, but it's not, we're the generation that if you were there less than 10 years, you were a job hopper.
Yep.
And it's a 180.
It
And so
is.
I love this. And these
Hmm.
companies and these leaders who are fighting this, I'm
Hmm.
like, you're going to lose
You
because time's
are.
not on your side.
No,
And so,
unfortunately
right,
not.
get with it now,
Yep.
or be standing there by yourself, pounding your fist on the desk, wondering where everybody is.
Right. They're all on sabbatical.
Right,
Self-proclaimed
exactly. Yeah.
sabbatical. They've all
Uh-huh.
quit. That's
Yeah.
so funny. I worked for an agency several years ago that started to bring sabbaticals into a part of their employee overall benefits. Once you'd been there a certain number of years, you were able to go out on a sabbatical. And I think that's wonderful. I think the other side of this, Julie, that like it kind of cracks me up. I was listening, I think it was maybe to like the radio the other day. I don't know exactly what show. And they were talking about recent Google search results and trends. And one of the things they were noticing was that 30-year-olds were typing in a lot of, how do I retire at 40?
And, and I hear this and I think if you were in the right job, you wouldn't want to retire at 40.
Right. That's such a good point. Oh my
So that's
gosh.
what I say, these
Yeah.
I've been working on trying to build a relationship with a big financial planning firm.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, to me, it's so obvious
Hmm.
that instead of your people coming in and saying, how soon can I retire? What if you had an option and you directed them to what we do to help them get in the right job?
Yep.
And if you're in the right job, like when people say to me,
Hmm.
um, so when are you going to retire? I'm like, I don't know. As long as I'm still having fun,
You're not watching the
as long as I
clock
still have
because
a
you're in
why?
flow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Like it's not there. I'll tell you what, there's nothing, there are no hobbies or things that I would like to do that I would enjoy more than what I do.
exactly.
And that's so powerful when
Hmm.
you live in that because you don't feel that need.
Hmm.
You aren't living 5 days to be off for two. That's
Yeah.
not the way you're living your life. And I just want that for everybody.
I love it. Me too. Me too.
Ew.
Awesome. Let's talk a bit about chapters in our lives and our careers and trying to get those chapters within our career to align a bit with our lives. Are there some insights to this approach that you can share and how it helps us experience a more fulfilling and holistic professional journey when we kind of consider both life and career chapters?
Yeah. So the first thing I want everybody to embrace is and if you can embrace this idea of career chapters, I promise, I promise that you will relax.
Hmm.
So, what do we ask 22-year-olds, 21-year-olds, 20-year-olds, 19-year-olds, 18-year-olds? So, what are you going to do with the rest of your life? What are you going to do with your career? And wow, that's a horrible question.
It is.
What are you going to, because we're asking somebody who hasn't lived yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so the pressure that we still put on people and then ourselves
Mm-hmm.
have one answer, it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
So when people say to me, I'll have people say to me, people in their 50s, I'll have people say to me, I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And I
Mhm.
hate this. I hate it. If you want to make me cringe, say that to me. I'm like, hey, look in the mirror. You're grown up. Figure it out.
Yeah.
It's not. And what that implies is there's one magic answer out there.
Oh, exactly.
And there isn't because the you at 22, 32, 42, 52, and 62 are
Hmm.
different yous. And what you need professionally is going to differ. And
Hmm.
so, this idea that you can have a small business for 3 to 5 years, then decide that was a great experience, but I want to
Hmm.
go do something different. You might go work. Maybe you're in marketing communications in your business, and you decide, you know what, I want to take my skills and go work for a nonprofit that focuses on something I care about. And you might do that for 3 to 5 years. Then you might go work for a small company. Then you might go back to having it's okay.
Yeah.
No, about 20 years ago, I remember this. 15, 20 years ago, it was like, well, you're really undecided. And it's not bad anymore. And
No.
so there are different professional options that will fit best with your life. That's why I say this has to be an inside out.
Yeah.
Has to be inside out. What do
Hmm.
you want? What do you need? And then how can you wrap what you do around it and honor the different places you are in your life? And for women,
Hmm.
I think we have even a better opportunity for that
Hmm.
because if you have kids,
Yep.
that's a different level of stress and responsibility on you. If your kid,
Yep.
if because it still falls mostly on us,
Yep.
unfortunately. If you have elderly parents that
Hmm.
you're responsible for, if you if you so what is it we have the opportunity to flex
Hmm.
as we go through our lives in a way that we never have before, but what we have to do is we have to have a framework and we have to know how to tackle that.
Hmm.
It all starts with who am I and what do I want, and those are big, scary, hairy
They
questions.
are. You, especially I think for women, again, because of
uh,
societal pressures and norms and comparison traps. It's how often do we ever think about that for one? And then two, when we are asked that, it's like deer in headlights.
Yeah, because wait a minute, I'm not allowed to want anything here.
Exactly.
I really want that, but I'm never going to get it. What do you want? Let's
Mm,
talk about you. It just drives me crazy because
yeah, it's a really hard thing to get out of.
it is. And you know what? I'd love to say I haven't mastered, but I don't. I mean, we
Yeah.
all struggle with it.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah,
the
it
same.
takes time and it takes practice. But what I think you're speaking to, it's just very, at least for me, it feels very liberating. Because I understand, mentoring, coaching, and having a number of members within our organization that are kind of, in career pivot moments, life pivot moments, job seeking moments, that it can feel very overwhelming and as if the narrative in your career are what's driving you. And I love all of the advice you always give, Julie, because it's really about you taking the power, taking the steering wheel, and owning your story and your career. We did get a quick question from Dell, one of our live listeners. I'm going to jump to that real quick before I go to the next question. Any advice for people who had a string of professional experiences that have made them reflexively think never again? And all of their hard skills. It's a bit paralyzing. I'm sure some folks can relate to Dell's question.
So, Del, if you and I were sitting across the desk from each other, I'd say, tell me about never again. So this gets back to the career happiness formula. What was it about each of these things that made it so unpalatable? And what are the themes and common threads in them?
Yeah.
So, and then how much of that is you, frankly? Do you just keep going for jobs that you think you're better at than you actually are? Or do you keep picking cultures that are really misaligned with who you are? So you've got to look back and say, why never again? And really break that down. What are the circumstances? What are the things that you liked and didn't like? So I'm going to show you an exercise with a piece of paper. Okay. So here's a piece of paper. Okay. Go across the top and write down every major experience you've had. Last job, job before that, maybe a big community activity you were involved in, volunteer, job. Okay. This is so simple, but it can help crystallize and help you see things. Fold the paper in half. Below, at top of the fold, write down everything you liked about every single experience you've had, whether it was the people and what you liked about the people. Then on the bottom of the page, write what you didn't like about each of those things. Those are what we call in the biz, kids, clues. Those will tell you what is it you want to look at. And so the goal is to find your next thing that has as much of this as possible and as little of this as possible. So in other words, you want to reconfigure the information instead of saying that job sucked, why did it suck? What sucked about it? And then what were the pieces that you actually liked? You start to create a narrative or a story about what works for you and what doesn't. Instead of looking at your jobs like this, you're going to look across this, because with the 6 experiences you list across the top, the only thing they have in common is you. And so what worked for you here, and what worked for you here, what worked for you here on the bottom, what didn't work for you, what didn't work for you. And you start to create a story. And so you know what to go toward.
Yeah. And I mean, I think the good news, Del, is oftentimes if it's hard to figure out what you do want, knowing what you don't want is a really good place to start.
Sure is. Sure is. Yes.
It's a really good place to start. Awesome. Well, listeners, keep the questions coming in the chat. And then at the end, if you want to come off of mute and add a question at the end, you absolutely can. Awesome. All right. Next question for you, Julie. I'm excited to chat about this one. Obviously, I own an organization that is a network that advocates for women. And I personally am working hard to help close what I'm calling the networking gap, because women do not network as much as men. We don't have the same support systems that men do. We aren't encouraged like men to network. So I'm curious, how have you seen intentional networking propel careers forward with intention and purpose? And could you possibly share an example?
So here's my definition of networking. Building and maintaining mutually beneficial relationships that support your goals. And the key phrase in that is that support your goals. So if you've ever gone to a networking event and you're like, I don't know why I'm going because somebody told me I should network.
Yep.
I'm pretty certain you didn't get anything out of it.
Mm-hmm.
You went, you had lunch, you chatted with somebody about the weather, about the traffic, and then you left. And so you can have a really robust network without ever going to an event with a bunch of strangers.
Agreed.
I don't like those kind of things. I don't go. I find them, I just don't go, but I have a super strong network. So what I've done is, given what my goals are, and this is where, if you don't know where you're trying to go, what job you're trying to get, what you're looking to learn, what you want to get more of, then you don't know who to network with.
Yep.
And the whole idea that everybody's a networking contact Sure, maybe they could be,
Right.
but here's the thing about women in particular, Amy, is that we are very comfortable networking personally.
Hmm.
Hey, could you take little Johnny to soccer practice on Tuesday and I'll take little Timmy on Thursday? Yeah, sure, no problem. Super comfortable with that.
Right.
We don't ask people in the checkout line behind us at Target to take our kids to soccer practice for a reason.
Right.
So we are good at building networks around our personal goals. How am I going to
Hmm.
get? Are you going to the store? Can you pick me up a pound of pasta? Are you, would you mind stopping by? We're really good at that because that mom network or that women network, we're super comfortable asking for that,
Yep.
because we're good at building relationships, much better. That's why men, they say, are much lonelier, especially the older they get, because they
Hmm.
aren't good at having friendships.
Yep.
So if you think about how do you get things done in your personal life, why should it be any different in your professional life? It shouldn't. You just have to get clear. Are you looking to learn more about a particular tool? Are you looking to learn more about a particular industry?
Yeah.
Okay. So I would like to move from here to here. I want to learn more about this. Okay. Then the question becomes, who do I know?
Hmm.
Or who do I know who might know somebody who can help advance my interest, advance me toward my goals? It's
Hmm.
about intention. It's about reaching out and asking for
Hmm.
help. It's about putting yourself out there and being specific. Don't
Right.
just say, I'm looking for a new job. Can you help?
Yeah. That's not going to fly.
No,
Nobody wants to
or
be on the other side of that.
no. So be specific. I'm
Uh-huh.
looking to learn more about how you built your organization, Amy. Would
Hmm.
you be willing to hop on a call for 20 minutes and share some of your best tips with me? That's super specific.
Yep.
You give Amy an opportunity to say yes or no. You also help her know how to show up.
Hmm.
I get those big, vague questions.
Yeah.
Like, it's so frustrating because I'm like, you don't even know what you're asking. Hey,
Yep.
so another cringe, if you want to make me cringe, say, let me pick your brain. Say, pick your brain.
Ugh.
Because I'm like, there's not much left.
Right.
So
That's what I was going to
I
say.
have nothing to spare. So it's being super specific instead of, I will never forget this one guy said to me one time, he goes, networking doesn't work. And I said, why do you say that? Well, I'm looking for a job and I've networked with 120 people. And I said, okay. Okay. I said, well, tell me what you're looking to do. And he couldn't tell me what he's looking to do next. I'm like,
You haven't networked.
then you wasted the time of
Yeah,
100.
exactly. I think that's so great. Go ahead.
Yeah. So be intentional, be focused, get clear on what
Yes.
you want. If
Hmm.
you don't have any goals, then my advice to you is your goal is to set a goal. Set some goals.
Yep.
What do you want out of your career? What do you want to learn more about? What do you want to dive into? What do you
Hmm.
want to, what do you want to explore? What do you think you might want to do next?
Hmm.
And just start with that.
Yeah. Well, I think another key part of it that really struck me too in your definition was mutually beneficial. I feel, having talked to a number of women for the book that I'm writing about the networking gap, I just realized after several interviews that there's a lot of shame and guilt around the idea of networking because we are showing up and we are self-promoting and we are asking. And I feel like a part of the antidote to that is if they're going through the practice of understanding who they are, what their goals are, what their personal mission is, but then also understanding what they bring to the table is quite another thing. And so when you can walk into a room and know what you have to offer others in the way of help, it helps them help you as well because it feels mutually beneficial and not one-sided,
Yeah.
especially when, again, like job seekers will start, they don't network until they need a job. And then it's like, you feel like crap because like now you're unemployed and you feel like you're just going around begging people to connect. But if you actually just maintained a consistent, intentional set of relationships that were mutually beneficial, then when a moment like that comes up and you need a job, how much easier it is to reach out to a connection who already knows you, respects you. It's a give and a take, and is going to be willing to step in and help you sort of kind of overcome that momentary lapse in a job. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I could.
If you don't know what you have to offer, just the fact that you say to somebody after they've been helpful to you, please let me know how I can help you
Yes.
now or in the future. One of my
Yes.
pet peeves is when I network with someone and I
Uh-huh.
will say to them, Let me know how it goes. Let me know how I give them
Yeah,
ideas, give leads. Let me know how it goes. I'm going to tell you that 8 out of 10 people don't do it.
I agree. And it always makes
I'm
me
like, don't
sad.
ever ask me for help again, please.
Right?
Don't.
I'm like, I want to know. I gave you a really awesome opportunity. Tell me what happened.
Oh, or you see like somebody landed a job on LinkedIn. You're like,
Yeah.
wait a minute. I introduced them. I'm
Yeah.
like, yay, but at least circle back and say, close the
Thank
loop.
you.
That honestly, that's
It's
like, that
huge.
makes you feel used.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Well, we're gonna have to get back together and have a little nice rant about
Yeah,
networking then as
exactly.
well. I love it. Thank you, Nicole. One of our members is listening with us right now live and said that Together Digital has taught me to always ask, how can I help you? And I agree. That is a big practice. One, asking in general, just building up that muscle and learning how to ask, but then also being open and willing to give. We have a whole ask and give practice. So thanks for the shout out, Nicole. We appreciate it. And you, of course. All right, let's talk about how I'm going to skip to the next question because I feel like that one was kind of a repeat. I feel like we dug deep on that last networking question. So I'm going to skip to the next one. What do you believe are the critical components of understanding career happiness? Julie, where the hell do we even start? I think we kind of started to lay out some of that framework, but is there anything else you want to add to that?
Getting it, I think self-awareness
Mm-hmm.
is absolutely critical. We
Mm-hmm.
launched a program called Career Catalyst. It's an online program available on our website that walks you through how to figure out who you are and what you want and how to tell your story.
Oh, cool.
And step number one of the 7 is self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's that inside out process. And we get really tempted, or we want to fall into, I can be everything to everybody.
Yep.
I'm good at everything. No, you're not. And so that self-awareness, and that, look, if you want somebody to do these things and do them happily, as I say, skipping to the shower,
Mm-hmm.
uh, then me. But if you want someone to do these things, you're going to be better off finding somebody else. Self-awareness is attractive.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding what's working for me today, what isn't working for me, what would I change if I could? One of my favorite questions is um, take a snapshot um, of where you are today
Mm-hmm.
and say what's working.
Yeah.
If I could look at your plate, if I could take on my plate, if I could say, all right, if I could move something off here, what would it be? And if I could add something in, what would it be?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and one of my other questions is, what do I want more of? Less of? Never again. If you could rearrange your plate, your day, your week, what would you take off and what
Mm-hmm.
would you put back on? The goal is to stay in the lane as close as you can to what you want. And the more you move toward that and keep that awareness, and the more you find something that's a good fit for you, and you don't feel like you're a size 7 and you're putting on size 6 shoes,
Mm-hmm.
the happier you're going to be. So it starts with that. Think about interview questions. Okay. Um, there are questions that we get ready for when we interview.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about yourself.
It's my least
What are your,
favorite.
what are your strengths?
Uh-huh.
Right? You should always be able to answer those questions.
Oh yeah.
Always. Always. And I always say, like, when I'm speaking to customer groups, like intact customer groups, companies, I will say, pretend you get on the elevator with the CEO of your company. You've never met them before. And they say to you, so Fred, what do you do for this company? Why do we keep you around? What's your story? Tell me about yourself. Um, most of us would reach for the fire alarm button, and
Yeah.
run. Head to head to head. I work in marketing. Um, and but because we can't state our value.
Yeah.
So powerful to be able to state your value.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about when you go on an interview,
Yeah.
that's what they're asking you, isn't it? Isn't tell me
Mm-hmm.
about yourself and what are your strengths? Aren't they trying to understand your value?
Yeah.
So why do we only try to do that when we're in job search?
Mm-hmm.
It's so powerful if you're able to answer that question at any time.
Yeah.
At any time. What are 3 things you're great at?
Mhm.
What are the three things, Amy, that if I need somebody to do these three things, you're going to be like, yep, I can rock all three of those things. What are the three things you don't want me to come to you for? That's self-awareness.
Yep.
And if you're not sure how to get that, point two of Career Catalyst is reputation management.
Yes.
A little trick on this is if you start going, I don't want to brag, I don't want to talk about myself. Here's a way to communicate your value in a way that might be more comfortable. Ask yourself, what do people come to me for?
Hmm.
What do people come to me for? People do not come to me for data, for managing anything that's analytical in nature, thank God. But they do come to me for these things. So
Yeah.
get really clear on people tell me that I've been recognized for, I've been told I'm
Yes.
good at. Think of
Love
those
those.
stems. If you're not, if you get go to self-awareness
Hmm.
and you're like, I don't know what I'm good at, I still don't know, then take the other tack. Say to yourself, people tell me that I'm
Hmm.
recognized for. In my last performance appraisal, my leaders told me that this is what people appreciate about me. So start with those
I love
stems.
it.
And if those resonate with you, if you're like, yeah, that's people say that, that's true. Here's the thing is when we're really good at something,
Hmm.
it's like breathing. And so like, why do we get credit for breathing? You know, and so when people are like, you're so good at that, you think to yourself, isn't everybody? But what do
Hmm.
so we don't often give ourselves credit
Exactly.
um for the things that come easy to us.
Hmm.
And but that's where
So
our real
true.
value lies. And so
Hmm.
get really clear on what what's those things are. Like
Hmm.
I know that I if I get on a radio show or a TV show that I know that millions of people are going to be seeing, my heart rate doesn't even increase. It doesn't bother me at all.
It's awesome.
There's plenty of other things that I'm like, oh, that make me crazy that I can't do. So you've got to get really clear
Yeah.
on what it is that what do people come to you for, and
Yep.
don't stay as close to that as possible, and try to
Hmm.
build a career around that, even though it might look different as you go through your life.
I love it. Well, and I think too, what it's reminding me of is that, I don't know, I probably spent, yeah, 15 years on that agency hamster wheel, just running and running and running. I never slowed down. The work that Julie is talking about, the frameworks that she's giving us today, the practice and self-awareness, it requires you to slow down, ladies. So I'm sorry, you're not going to be able to keep going 100 miles an hour. If you want to find satisfaction and happiness, you really, truly do have to begin to slow down and take the time to think through these things. Give yourself not just the physical space and time, like putting it on your calendar, but then I would say also just the mental and the emotional time. One thing I did this year that I'm super proud of was created a quarterly me treat day where it's like a retreat, but for myself.
Great. I love that.
Yep. And I'm sharing it with everyone. That's my gift to all of you. I encourage you to find a way to do it. Hopefully you guys all have, time off with work. We always kind of wait until we're sick or we're burnt out to like book a vacation, but why not just have a random ass day where you're just like, you know what? I'm gonna go to the art museum. I'm gonna do some reflective writing. I'm gonna do some meditation. I'm gonna go for a hike, whatever it is for you that lets you kind of take some time inward and slow down. And really think about where you are currently and where you want to be. That's kind of really the only thing that I have planned. And then each quarter, it's just going to be those reflective questions, practices, and then maybe just doing something that I in particular enjoy and just basically telling everyone at work, like, hey, you guys got things. Text me if something urgent comes up. Otherwise, leave me be. Same thing with the husband and kids. Y'all can survive 24 hours
Yeah. Yeah.
without me. So, yeah, I do encourage
Yeah.
you,
And
if
you
you
know
can't
what?
take
I
a
would
full
tell you,
day,
I would
slow
add to
down.
that, Amy,
Good.
that if you don't do it for yourself, somebody else is going to do it for you.
Oh, so true.
I can't
Yeah.
tell you how many people who've been let go
Uh-huh.
are like, I gave 120% to that company. I'm
Oh,
like,
that's
well,
so
then
true.
that was your mistake.
That's so true.
You
Oh my
know, or
gosh.
if you're in a job
Yes.
you don't like, don't think that's a secret.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't like it, you're probably not performing well,
Yeah.
and you will end up on the layoff list. So don't
Yep.
let it happen to you. If you
Mm-hmm.
know you're not happy, the answer is not to put your nose down and
Yep.
work harder.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's put your head up and say, I deserve to be in a role that brings the best of me out, because
Yeah.
that is going to give me the best life that I want, and I'm going to go find it. And I know
That,
it's going to be scary. I know I'm going
yep.
to have to fear around it. I know there's risk associated with it,
Hmm.
but I'm gonna take that because to me, it's pick your poison. Being
Yep.
unhappy at a miserable job, that's hard.
Hmm.
So is doing the work to find something better. That's also hard. Pick your
Yeah.
heart.
Yep. Pick your poison. That leads nicely into kind of our next question. And I kind of alluded to it earlier as well, but this idea of, um, our mindset when it comes to our career story. And oftentimes we think it owns us versus us owning it. I think a lot of what we're talking about today, the tools and the tips that you're giving to our listeners will hopefully empower them to start to own their own story. Are there any other ways in which you help women to shape their story so that it serves their career and their lives better? Because I think this is another thing where, again, we're alluding to layoffs and firings. Those are pretty traumatic experiences. How can you start to help women overcome some of those things so they can kind of take ownership of their career story?
I've been doing this for so long that I feel like I've almost seen everything.
Yeah.
Um, I hate to say that because something crazy is going to happen this afternoon that I haven't seen, but we have come so far in the world of work in terms of what's acceptable.
Hmm.
Leaving the workforce, coming back, having things that don't go well. Um, if you have some things that in your career that you think, ugh, I muffed that, or I got laid off, or I got let go, it's not as much that it happened to you as to how you tell the story.
Hmm.
You own it. If you, let's say you were let go, let's say
Hmm.
you were in the wrong job and you were let go, or you made a mistake and you let go. The worst thing you can do
Hmm.
is to tell the story and then blame somebody else.
Yeah.
Um, because when someone asks you, I have seen the interview question asked before. Tell me about a time when you dropped the ball. Tell me about a time when things didn't go well. It's not a trick question in that people are looking for perfection. Because if you answer that question with, wow, things have always gone well for me, you're not a
Hmm.
great hire. Sorry. Because that's not realistic. What instead they're looking for is maturity,
Hmm.
professional awareness, the ability to take responsibility, and the ability to, own it and move on. What I learned from this was this.
Absolutely. That's so important.
Yeah, believe me, I actually have a really good friend right now who's going through something horrible,
Hmm.
and it's his fault. And it is when he is ready to
Hmm.
get back to work, he really is going to have to work hard. In other words, he's going to have to, and I tell him, I say, I think for you, you're going to have to get back on your feet by having people who still know and love you
Hmm.
hire you so you can get your story built because getting fired, any of those sort of things
Yeah.
are, those are just normal now.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are times when we do something really stupid
Hmm.
and we get let go. But
Yeah.
it's really owning up to your mistakes and saying, here's what I learned
Yeah.
from it, and here's how I'm better, and here's how I work through it. Yes, there will still be people who don't want to hire you. Let's say you got fired 3 times. In fact, one time I was talking to this guy, he'd have 8 jobs in 10 years. And
Wow.
I can't help you. I said, because
Yeah.
this is clearly a you problem.
Hmm.
Because, it's not that you did 8 bad things, but
Right.
you didn't learn
From
clearly.
any of
And
those
these were
things. Yeah.
none of those were layoffs. I guess I'm
Yeah.
like, you can't, at what point does it become a you problem? What's the
Yeah.
common thread there?
Hmm.
And I said, the best advice I can give you is go rebuild with someone who still believes in you.
Yeah.
Because your story is, I mean, so that's why if you have a couple bad jobs in a row or a couple
Hmm.
roles where you say, okay, don't just bounce to another one and hope for the best. You have to step back
Hmm.
and figure out, is your picker broken? Or, what do you need to do to make sure you are making better decisions? Or, honestly, are you in the wrong job?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It takes some time and reflection. And like you said, and you keep emphasizing self-awareness, which is such a critical and important thing, I think,
And
and
so lacking.
professional
Oh my
development
gosh.
and personal development. Like you just
Yeah.
can't, we need more of it, especially, I mean, within leadership, I would say for sure. But in particular, it really just made me think back to a recent episode we had with Maria Judice, who owns Hot Studios, which a part of her company had been bought by Facebook. But before that, she basically got fired from a job. She was on her way. She shared this in the podcast. You have to go back and take a listen. Kaylee just shared the link to the episode in the chat, but she was on her way to basically talk about her company in a big conference event, and on the way there got fired, got there, still did the talk, and just with all honesty got up and said, I still believe in this company. I still believe in this product. However, I'm going to be transparent. I'm probably not the person to connect with because I just got let go, blah, blah, blah. And she was just very kind of open, honest, and then just shared, I don't remember exactly how she put it. We should go back. You guys should go back and listen to the episode. But the way that she shared it was with such grace and tact that it really impressed the room, and it
Yep.
opened up new doors and opportunities for her just moments after getting
Yep.
let go. And
Absolutely.
so sharing that vulnerability even publicly, I was just so floored that she did that. I'm like, that was a brave moment. And I think those brave moments are what really pay off. And I think it just takes some time and practice of sharing those stories and that vulnerability. But as you said, Julie, emphasizing, and what I learned from this was, I mean, all it does is show that you're
Yeah.
human, but you have
Yeah.
the ability to learn and grow. And to me, that establishes and builds trust and respect, which, if it's the right kind of employer, they will definitely snatch you
That
up, I think,
you're
just from
not
that alone.
everybody's cup of tea. You're
Yeah.
not. None of us are. And
You
you
don't have to
shouldn't
be for
be.
everyone.
No. Why would
It's
you
too
want to be
much.
everybody's cup of tea?
It's too much.
Too
Awesome.
much.
Okay, I've got one more question for you,
Okay.
Julie, before we wrap up. But obviously, our live listening audience has been very engaged. I'm not surprised, Julie. All of this conversation always ends up being amazing when we have you with us. But my last question is, of the few takeaways that we've talked about today: understanding career happiness, crafting a career narrative, and building a powerful network. Can you share which ones of these has resonated with you the most in your own personal professional journey?
Like I said, I was in human resources for 16 years
Mhm.
out of college. And but I would tell you that I knew none of this stuff. I left human resources um, and I didn't know how to network. I didn't know what career management was. I didn't know any of this stuff. So I was 38 when
Mhm.
I left HR. And I figured all this out. I figured out how to network in a way that felt authentic to me. And it wasn't just going to Rotary Club or random meetings.
Yeah.
I learned that I have to build my own powerful network based on what my goals are.
Mhm.
And I, for sure, at that point, everything I'm saying right now was like, I would have heard all that and been like, huh? I didn't know any of it.
Yep.
And so wherever you are in your career journey, you are not, it's not too late to take a mulligan and
Mhm.
start over and figure this out.
Love it.
There's a person on this call who was our client at one point,
Uh-huh.
and I knew her family growing up,
Awesome.
and her brother was friends with, I'm sorry, with my son.
Mhm.
And our process resonated so much with her that she is in the process of learning how to be a coach for us.
Oh, fantastic.
So, in a way, that's nothing she ever would have thought of when she
Yep.
was working with us. And so, Adrienne,
Hi,
hi.
Adrienne.
Um,
She outed herself. I love it.
oh, I love it. Yes. But it's so don't let yourself be open for those surprises that come along,
Absolutely.
because there's not a damn thing I talked to you about today that I would have been able to share with you when I was in my late 30s. Not a thing.
Mhm.
Not a thing. I resisted networking. I didn't even know what career management was.
Uh-huh.
But it was that thread, it was that
Yeah.
moment in human resources
Mhm.
where it's like, why do all these people hate their jobs, but they're still here?
Yep.
When you're in HR, unfortunately, you can't say to people, you know what? I think you should go.
Right?
I was like, why are you still here? Because this is clearly not about the color of the walls.
Yeah.
You're miserable. Why is that okay with you?
Uh-huh.
You
Uh-huh.
are miserable at work. One week I had two conversations with two separate women who said to me, I cry in the car on the way to work.
Oh, that breaks my
And I
heart.
said, why is that okay with you? Well, it's
It's like,
not. I said, apparently it is.
right,
You let
because you're still
yourself,
here.
you let
Yeah.
yourself get to that point.
Hmm.
By the time you're crying in the car, you are so far down the hole. It's just going to be a
Yeah,
lot harder to pull yourself out.
I agree. I agree. Julie, this has been such a great conversation.
Can I
Thank you
add one
so
more thing?
much. Yeah, please
We
do.
work for companies that have employee resource groups,
Hmm.
women's groups. If you do webinars, please contact me. This is
Yes.
a topic I love. And I can focus it on how to do all this inside your company. So it's not really about changing jobs.
Hmm.
So if you belong to professional associations, I love to speak. I love to do webinars. So please reach out to me or check out our website. I'm trying to get the word out, especially with people who've already heard me speak. If you think this would resonate with other people please let me know.
Yeah, I mean, employee retention and satisfaction is such a big thing right now.
Huge.
The job market and industry is absolutely insane. Companies are working with limited resources and budgets for hiring, and people are already taxed and stressed and burnt out. The pandemic and everything else that followed after has not really helped either. So I do think, Julie, the work that you're doing is so very important, not just to the individuals, but the companies overall. So yes, Kaylee will drop once again the into the chat the ways in which you can connect with Julie and
Yep.
connect her with your company as well. I just want to say yes. I mean, I think I love that you picked networking as one of your favorites. I wouldn't be sitting here right now running and owning a company if it wasn't for networking. Hell, you and I wouldn't be talking right now if it
Right.
wasn't for the lovely Brad Wise
Brad
introducing
Wise
us.
introduced us. That's right.
So thanks, Brad. If you ever take a listen to this episode, we hadn't talked in years since the pandemic and we were catching up and he's like, oh my gosh, you have to meet Julie. And so, yeah, like here we are, our event number 2. And I hope we keep having conversations and chatting together. I think taking this collective experience that has been our lives and careers and putting it out into the world in ways in which can benefit other women who are kind of in the midst of their journey. It's such an awesome thing to do. It is absolutely what fills me with happiness. And I feel like it's much the same for you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. We are always so thrilled to have you all here with us. We hope that you learned something new today, and we will all see you next week. Until then, please keep asking, keep giving, and keep growing. We'll see.